live from the Hoboken Historical Museum in beautiful uptown Hoboken. It's the third season premiere of Hoboken Talks, where we talk to there's so many fascinating people just in a square mile. Artists, authors, musicians, entrepreneurs, activists. Oh, we got a good one today. Oh, we got a good one. Who is it? I'll tell you. It's Rob Harari. You may know him from Stevens Institute of Technology, where his current post is Director of the Music and Technology Program. You may know him from the United Synagogue of Hoboken. You may not know him, but you may have just been in rooms in this town where he's designed the sound system. Oh, he's done so much. I gotta stop introducing and start talking to him. Rob Harari, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Jack. Thanks for those very kind words.
And I'm Jack Silbert, and great to be back. Great to be here for the third season debut. We're gonna try to wrap up the cliffhanger from season 2. Who shot Rand? If you're watching us live on Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern on YouTube or Facebook, you can. We're not on that Mastodon, right? No, we're not there. But you can. We encourage you to be interactive. You can ask questions of Rob. If you have just a comment, please share it. And as long as it's not especially mean-spirited or it wouldn't be. People were wondering, is the full cast returning for season 3? Yes, Eric Kammer is here. Thank you, Eric. Yay, he says. So please, we do just like that. We welcome your participation. And let's get started, Rob. Now, where did you grow up?
Born in Manhattan, Upper East Side. What's now Beth Israel was then Doctor's Hospital.
Okay.
Lived in Riverdale for 5 years, then moved to Tenafly, New Jersey, until I graduated from Tenafly High in '79.
I think we have a photo of you from the early days.
From the early days. You asked me for a baby shot, but I think I brought there you go, a birthday party when I was 6. And I chose that shot because my nickname growing up was Happy Harari. So you could just see it in my personality from the get-go.
Pretty much everyone's happy. Maybe on the far left in the background of more what's going on.
If you notice, there's no birthday cake. I think we were eating potato chips. Okay.
That's potato chips and soda. I think that's great. Yeah. And I'm guessing music was an early interest.
From the very beginning, always from the very beginning. I started with trumpet in grade school, and
and was it someone else's influence, or were you just drawn to it?
Well, I think grade school is they force an instrument down everybody's throat.
Okay.
And I had terrible stage fright.
And a trumpet literally forced down your throat, right?
Yeah, I'll never forget, 5th grade concert. I tried to play Born Free on the trumpet. Okay. And I was so scared. I started a fifth above.
Yeah.
And because of the trumpet valves, I got halfway through, and then all of a sudden the notes were all wrong, and I realized I started in the wrong key. So I had to start over again. Then ran off the stage and went to the bathroom to cry. Fortunately, I got over the stage fright.
Despite you carried on through high school, NYU,
I picked up piano pretty quickly.
Seemed like I was going to guess that you were.
Piano became the main instrument pretty much for the rest of my life.
And took lessons in.
Oh yeah. Right? Lots of that.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, as graduating high school, I was already in a master class, and I thought I was going to be a concert pianist, have that competition career, so like 8 hours a day at the piano. And
Right.
I didn't do sports or anything. I just practiced a lot.
Yeah. And I can't wait to find out how that kind of where it switched. But so then you matriculate at New York University.
Right, NYU. So that's when I left Tenafly. I never went back.
You've
And,
never been back to Tenafly.
well, to visit mom.
Okay, all right.
But never moved back, and got an apartment in the West Village, and met my wife on a blind date in '85.
Wait a minute. All right, wait.
I'm jumping quickly.
All right.
Because,
Well, we got a lot of ground to cover, but
Yeah,
but still. So you graduated with a degree in musicology.
double degree, musicology and political science.
You know, this young man Evan, who has he's working on 4 degrees.
Yeah,
He's,
I know. He's nuts.
in our audience today, and we welcome him.
A Stevens Institute kid.
All right, you met your wife. She was living in Manhattan as well.
No, she was living in Jersey, but
Jersey girl.
absolutely. And when I was working in the recording studio, there's a picture of me at that studio. The chief engineer, I got concert tickets for Bruce Springsteen in 1985 through a lottery. Actually, my friends did. And they said, Rob, come on, bring a date. And, I asked 3 other girls, tragedies, all sorts of things happened to each. And so my buddy Steve said, Rob, I know a girl for you. So he calls her up and say, hey, Jules, you want to go see Springsteen? They were high school sweethearts.
Yeah.
And she thought, oh, maybe I get back together with Steve. And she goes, yeah, sure, why not? They grew up saying Springsteen.
Yeah,
The Jersey children. And he goes, okay, good. Here's my friend Rob, and hands me the phone.
It's a little bait and switch.
A little bit, yeah. So we met at my mom's house in Tenafly. There we go.
And this would have been the stadium leg.
Oh, yeah.
Of the Born in the USA
Born in the
tour.
USA. Right.
I went in Philadelphia with my sister. That was
There you go.
first.
And 3 months later, she moved in with me in the village, and we've been together ever since.
That's beautiful.
We got married in '89 and had to find a place to live.
It was too expensive in Manhattan. Something like that.
Kind of, sort of. We looked at Park Slope, but then somebody said, "Hey, check out Hoboken."
Okay.
I lived on Grove, and we were right by the West 4th Street basketball on 6th Avenue in the village.
Sure.
And we come to
I used to
Hoboken.
play a lot of street ball there.
Yeah, I did. I love street ball. And we come to Hoboken, and we're walking down Garden Street on a Wednesday night, and we've been looking. Jerry Citro's hometown realtors. Jerry Citro sold us our house, and we walked down Garden Street. It was a Wednesday night, and there's everybody playing ball in the church, square park. There's music playing in the bandstand, and we just kind of looked at each other and said, "This is it. This is it. This is where we're going to live."
Hoboken at its best.
So we moved in. We bought our house in '89 and started our new life here.
And you started working in a recording studio, I think.
Right. I interned when I graduated NYU and living in the village. I interned at 39th Street Music.
And where was that? No, I'm kidding. Sorry.
By the corner of 8th Avenue.
Okay. And you worked on a few prominent things.
Yeah. Listen, I just want to preface the rest of this conversation.
Yeah.
I've been really lucky in my life to be with really good people, and nothing I've ever done, none of the successes wouldn't be without a team of some sort.
Okay.
I mean, 100%, it's been more the people around me than, me, myself, and I. So, thanks, Jerry. That was a long time ago, that picture.
Jerry Fallow, who heads up,
The Cultural Affairs Department of the city of
is that the
Hoboken.
official name of it?
I believe she's the
Yeah, and
director.
the Arts and Music Festival and all that, chiming in. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, me too. Where were we?
Team. I thought you were going to
Oh.
say, of everything I've done, I thought you were going to say this is the highlight. But that's okay. No, you're saying it's a team, and it was a team at 39th Street, and then you're thinking, could maybe do my own.
So met a lot of people. The team started, by the way, not the 39th Street team that then introduced me to the Julie team, and then the Julie team carries everything forward.
Right. Okay.
Everything forward, and then at 39th Street, I actually became the chief engineer, and the owner had this house band, and it was a great band. But one of the players was Rick Cutler, and Rick Cutler, amazing drummer, amazing keyboard player, was the musical director for Gregory Hines. So when Gregory Hines needed a monitor engineer, Rick said, "Hey, have you ever done monitors?" And of course I said, "Yes, absolutely," because I never did live sound in my life.
But kind of in a fake it till you make it way, you're like, I know enough that I can.
That's been my mantra.
Okay.
Say yes and figure it out later.
Right.
And that got me into I had started my first 10,000 hours playing music, my next 10,000 hours in the recording studio, my next 10,000 hours doing live sound. And so there was the studio, some amazing musicians and people that when I left, I was able to continue working with in other studios as a freelance engineer when I left 39th Street. And then within a couple of years, I became Greg's front of house engineer, and then his production manager and stage designer and artistic director. All of those things for his road gig, because he also did like 35 feature films.
Sure.
The TV show, which Rick wrote the music for, and we did it actually in Harariville South, which is you're going to see in a couple pictures.
All right, we'll get to that. I actually toured for a while with Duncan Hines, which is. Let's look at some more photographs, I think. So where are we here?
This is in the late 80s when I'm...
Also, I think a fun thing for the young people in the audience, we're going to at least see a lot of photos, keep track of Rob's different hairstyles over the years.
The receding hairline, for sure.
Susan says, love and miss you, and Julie...
Part of our synagogue family. We have some beautiful, beautiful friends from the United Synagogue of Hoboken. So this is mid-late 80s. This is actually it's not 39th Street. It's another. This is when I'm already freelancing around the city.
Okay.
Which was great because you just bounced from amazing studio to amazing studio.
And let's random these kind of grouped ones. What kind of.
So this is so when I quit the job as chief engineer, I opened up a little room in my one-bedroom apartment on the corner of Sheridan Square in a Flatiron building. So this was the very first Harariville.
Nice.
Yeah, and then Harariville moved, Rand, to the next shot, which is Harariville, the first one in Hoboken, which was the second floor back room in our newly purchased house.
Is that kind of foam?
It was the cheapest thing I could do.
But is that still like state of the art?
No.
I still see that a lot.
It wasn't state of the art then.
All right.
It was just, I needed to do something. And then Harariville, we started having kids. So, did you notice the twin dogs? They were litter suckers.
Oh, I did.
So that was Bones and Sky. So we started having kids, and we developed the basement, and it was a really fun project. In the project, we had to pull off all this horrible clapboard, and you can go on, Rand. And we discovered like the center pillar of the house where they used to deliver coal in Hoboken coal chutes. So this is like some of it you can't really see. Some of them they scratch the amount of pounds of coal in the coal. This is a little later in the 40s and the 30s.
And there's one. What is it? Today is February 23rd, but that was in 1948. A little coal being delivered.
Right. What's that one say? I spoke to the doctor about the tree. So we discovered all this stuff. Besides in the different renovations, people stuffed newspapers from in the walls.
It's Hoboken history.
Yeah. So
then
we opened the studio in the basement.
Got some media coverage.
Yeah. Well, Sam Ash, not the Sam Ash Music Stores, although he was a client in other areas. This Sam Ash was ad agency creative. And he was a good friend of Rick's, and we used to do, and they spelled my name wrong even. and we used to do a lot of work for him, a lot of jingles and things like that.
And I'll say right here is that you happen to come along right at the age where electronic music was kind of taking over, into the mainstream pop.
So if you look at that computer screen, people who do music now, I mean, kids who do music even with GarageBand on their iPads and stuff.
Sure.
So that's code. So we're using MIDI with coding
Right.
on the screen to capture the sound. This is before you had all the beautiful graphics, and so you're absolutely right. The personal PC was just coming into the houses in the mid '80s, and so I'm an old school analog fart that teaches all the latest digital technologies.
Right. So you, you did kind of both.
I had to evolve.
You embraced it, but for your own purposes.
For everybody's. I mean, that's just the way music was. I can tell you some crazy stories in the studio, like a drum machine, the Lindrum. Everybody's like 1980s. The drum machine is coming in. You have all that, that really stereo music, and so these were like these black boxes, and nobody really knew. And then we're in one session, pretty major artist. And this guy named Jimmy Brailauer just burst in. Jimmy Brailauer's a huge producer. He bursts into the studio and goes, "I just burned a new chip." And we open up the Lindrum, and he pops out the snare and pops in another snare. And all of a sudden, we had the snare for this record that the guy burnt. I still don't know how he burnt it back then. But, we had crazy stories like that in the 80s when the technology was just evolving so quickly.
Yeah.
So this studio, go ahead, Rand, if you would. Developed into the big studio. Bart Urback, who's another local guy, helped design all of our logos for the new room. And from here, we went into, Rand, is there any way I can tap something? Yeah, go ahead. I'll just give you a little tap. We went into Harariville North. So this is, by the way, our backdrop is facing the console that you're seeing there. The
Okay, so
here.
you can get sort of a 360 view of this interview, and you put on your virtual reality headsets.
Yeah, and those big speakers back there, they're actually in my second floor front now. I've created a mix room back home after we closed the studio. They're really big.
Nice.
So so we opened up this room and did some amazing work in there from '98 to 2008. We had a nice 10-year run. Some big acts had come through, and I did a lot of composing, a lot of producing of different bands.
What do you think that shirt is?
Oh, that's Fat Farm. So when I was working with Savion Glover, we did a show in Amsterdam, and all the dancers got all sorts of swag, and so did the crew. So nice. That was. Eric, they all sound good.
Eric wants to know which medium has the best sound: tape, records, digital, cassette.
It depends what decade you're in. I'll leave it at that because that's a huge debate. And
right.
We'll do that another time. So jumping back in time, we moved into Hoboken.
And got involved in the community, which being of the Jewish faith.
Yeah, and both Julie and I are very community oriented. So we moved in '89, and we went to the synagogue, and some guy said, "Hey, you Jewish?" I said, "Yeah, I'm in the synagogue." He goes, "You want to be on the board?" The first day I went in. And that's kind of the way it was, because at that point, most of the Jewish community had become aged 78, or older. There was 5 families that held the United Synagogue of Hoboken together.
Right.
With split properties and things like that. So all the work that we
just
did,
scraping together a minion.
Yeah, exactly, and scraping the walls. You can go to the next round, and
what a segue that was.
Yeah, it's this was some of the original paint from the building was completed in 1915.
Yeah,
and there was still elements from there, and then there was updates along the decades, but when I joined, there was still gaps in the windows in the sanctuary,
right?
Because it had decayed so much. So we started all these renovation days, and you see polishing the brass and on the banisters. Oh well, people would freak out because I used to go, when we toured, I would go on 80-foot ladders to focus a PA system,
right.
For the that kind of thing. So I didn't mind the heights. And even for changing the light bulbs, I don't have a picture, but we put these planks across the balcony and it was like walking across to change the light bulbs, and like people would run out because they didn't want to see what would happen. Yeah, so you can move on. Yeah, so it was truly a labor of love to get the synagogue shining and up and running. I was president from 97 to 99.
Okay.
And we had a building at 830 Hudson Street, which was previously a different congregation, and they merged, which is why it's called United Synagogue of Hoboken. And we housed the rabbi there, and ultimately we had to sell that building because we couldn't afford to keep everything going. And we used that as the seed money to build the annex, which is now you're in the side lot.
Right.
The annex is now behind it, and that's the Kaplan Preschool and the United Synagogue's Learning Center for the upper grades. It was amazing because when we did this, we took the opportunity when Sidurim, the prayer books, get old, you have to bury them in holy ground.
Sure.
So we said, all right, well, let's bury the Sidurim, in our holy ground before we do all the construction and stuff. We're digging in there, and wouldn't you know, we find like the old clay pipes from what used to be the rabbi's rectory, the house in the front, and like other crazy like Hoboken stuff down there. Nothing that we could really save, but you could just see how over the century or and a half or so, that was all there. And so the synagogue was renovated, and I added this picture because we get to see our amazing Rabbi Rob Scheinberg,
who's been a guest of Hoboken Talks.
Yeah, so on the left, I was the fortunate, again, it's all part of a team, but I was the fortunate president that hired him.
Nice.
One of our interviews, he was at the seminary in New York, and I was still very comfortable going in and out of the city all the time. So instead of like coming to Hoboken, I met him at, oh my God, if I could remember, it was Rob, I'm sorry, Rabbi, but it's like the Universe Diner in Midtown. Okay. It was like I can't remember the name, Rainbow. Anyway, we met at this crazy, and we kind of hammered out the end of our negotiation for his contract. and then he's just, so you had him. Everybody, go back to the recorded conversation with Rabbi Rob. He's one of the most amazing.
And just a note to everyone, all the Hoboken Talks episodes, all the complete 2-season set is available on YouTube on the Hoboken Historical Museum channel.
And besides the rabbi, what you're seeing is all Hararis.
Wow.
And we were honoring the window right behind my sister-in-law on Green is the window dedicated to my father, who passed when I was very young. And this was the window dedication ceremony that we had in the synagogue last summer. And that's part of the Susie Klein windows.
Okay, tell us just a little bit about Susie Klein.
I'm in the process right now with another great team. Jeffrey Bach is cinematographer, and Harry Kafka, who's editing. We're doing a documentary on Susie's process. These windows are going to be world renowned. They're already getting plenty of attention. She uses shells, she uses gemstones. They're 3-dimensional windows. It's hard to see in this picture, but I'm pointing like everybody can see my finger. I'm pointing at you. No, if you look at the window, that's Noah's Ark. So that's it. Every window is a different Bible story. Okay. The bow of that ship is actually coming out of the window. Yeah. The way she put the stained glass is you can't really see it on this, but. So Susie's amazing, and hopefully we'll get the synagogue on one of the museum tours just to go see the stained glass.
Oh, sure.
Project. It's an incredible.
Absolutely. All right. Let's and then
COVID. So I'm the Baal Tekiah. So being a trumpet player, blowing the shofar for the synagogue was kind of made sense. So this is actually a Rosh Hashanah. And since you couldn't blow inside because of the airflow with COVID,
right,
people weren't inside. So this is Columbus Park, and so
I know exactly where. All right.
And outside you can't see it, but there's about 50 people or so out there to hear the shofar blow because that's a very important thing on the high holiday.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, fantastic.
Okay, so jumping back in time again. Oh, by the way. I saw this picture. This is my birthday. Also my birthday. in
The photo is your birthday, not today is not your birthday.
no, my birthday's on Saturday. But the
It's
photo,
coming Saturday?
yeah, the 25th. So this photo was
Almost a leap year, baby.
yeah, almost. Thank God.
I don't know
Not.
the year. I have
Yeah,
to do
yeah.
the math, but
I'm a fish. So with Gregory, so Rick Cutler introduced me to Gregory. I started doing and so I'm already front of house and his production manager here. And I'll mention that my father died when I was 17 in 78. So I started with Gregory in 87. So by this time, he became like a real mentor to me.
Right.
You know, very, very close personal friend. And, you know, helped guide me because, you know, he had a few years on me. Not too many, but it was really an incredible relationship for me and my family, as you can see. By the way, my daughter now is like 28 and my son's 30. I didn't put any new pictures of them in there just to protect them from, you know.
Where is this photo? We have what, Yo-Yo Ma?
I think this is the Meyer Symphony Hall in Baltimore.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
You crossed paths with Maurice Hines.
Oh, well, I mean, it was Greg's brother.
Yeah, but
So there was that. And actually, also, Senior, Greg's father was alive when we
nice.
started together. So, you know, it was Gregory Hines. So here we are in Michigan, Muhammad Ali. He had already, like, started declining from his dementia. I mean, his Alzheimer's or Parkinson's. And what's funny about this picture is that, you know, we're all standing there, like, being real serious, take this picture with Muhammad Ali. And he cracks a joke just before they took the shot. We all just cracked up. And that's the way he was, you know. It didn't matter what was going on. He knew how to work a crowd, Muhammad Ali. And you'll see, I mean, you see Gregory just back there, he's just laughing. And that's Rick Cutler, by the way, on the right.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Keith Leving. And Gregory's, you know, obviously Savion was a mentee of Greg's.
Right.
And, you know, at one point, we all worked together. So this is actually on a Spike Lee movie, Bamboozled. If you ever watch the movie, there's a scene in the movie where the white executive said, "Okay, kid, show me what you got." And I should have remembered all these names before I came to this. So he wipes everything off his desk, and Savion jumps up on this desk and does this amazing tap dance. So another element of my career along the way was designing tap instruments for dancers.
Okay.
And I don't call them floors because they all have different tonal qualities. They have resonant cavities. I use different woods. You know, besides making multiple different styles of floors for Savion, and I did stuff for Greg. Tilly and a Wall, which is
I saw them at Maxwell's opening for somebody.
So they actually recorded in my studio. And, we talked about things, and I designed a road floor for them to tour with. It was really fun. So this is actually flips over onto the desk, and it's all wired with piezoelectric microphones.
Rilo Kiley, opening for Rilo Kiley. All right.
Okay, your memory's pretty good. Yeah. So this is the underbelly of a tap instrument that was used in the film shoot. I have another piece from that shoot when he was dancing with the Roots were playing. And that's actually in my office at Stevens. I use that as an instrument every once in a while. Coming off the road from some gig and, just catching up with my daughter. It was rough on the road.
Yeah.
I lost a lot of hair.
Did you lose a bet? What happened there?
I was a little wild with my hair growing up. In the village, I actually had an asymmetric cut where it was like short here and all the way down my shoulder. Maybe a fade of color or something. Yeah. And then that's Greg at Harariville, just nice. Before he passed. Came for a visit. We had done his music for his TV show on CBS.
Yeah.
So yeah, I miss that man. And I threw this in because remember when the Hoboken Reporter said, "Take your Hoboken Reporter with you when you travel." So we took this picture. This is in Amsterdam. I was like, okay, everybody kind of look like you care what's in the paper, but I've never sent it in because they you take a picture and then you lose it. So here
Karen,
it is.
Listener, are you watching?
There you go.
Yeah. And now you could say, do you remember the Hoboken Reporter?
Absolutely. I miss the Reporter. I'm so glad Karen's still doing her thing.
The patch.
Yep, Hoboken patch. All right. Do you want to ask or you want me to keep going?
I want to ask. All right, so what I'm looking, I recognize this is the little strip on 11th Street in Hoboken that over the past handful of years has really been beautified. And but there's more going on here. Rob, what? Please tell me.
Yeah. So
Who are these people?
So I want to clarify the past number of years. We're hitting 30 plus years. First, Alice Broquist was the president of the 11th Street Garden Association.
Okay.
She ran it for like 20 years, and then she handed it off to my wife, Julie, who's now hitting her 10-year mark.
All right.
And what they did, just so everybody knows about, because the flowers are coming up, the blooms are about to pop on there in a couple of weeks. They organized, that's community gardens, so neighbors and friends, all within the length of 11th Street from Bloomfield down to Park. Different people have different plots, and they plant their own flowers. Julie now takes their orders.
A community garden of sorts.
Yeah, with all these different patches, but there's a cohesion because people talk to each other. What are you bringing up?
Right.
Like my little patch, which Julie finally gave me. I'm so happy. I try to put all my flowers that pop in mid-late August because at that point all this beauty has happened and things are going down at this end. So there's always flowers. So what's happening here is there's a lot of people who don't know the true history of Sasso's Deli.
Which was until fairly recently at the corner of 11th and
Right.
What is
Garden.
Garden?
Right. So Rose Sasso on the left, her father owned that building from like the early 1900s.
Okay.
And it was in their family for like 60, 80 years. She married Sam Scardino, who's on the right, and for like a 40-year period, they ran Sasso's Deli.
Right.
So Sasso's Deli was like the heart of our community. They would feed folks from Fox Hills who didn't have any money. They would just sort of come in and there'd be like a plate of food on their little tables in the place. I was on the road sometimes. Julie was corporate at the time. She worked for HBO and Javalia, Kraft General Foods, apparently. And we, there was a time every once in a while when the kids were a little older, we didn't need the nanny. They would just go to Sasso's and sit there and wait for one of us to get home, and Sam and Rose would take care of the neighborhood kids.
Great.
They really took care of the neighborhood. They were the heart and soul. So when they retired, I think we can go to the next slide, right? When they retired, we dedicated this bench and put it in the middle of the island that's between Bloomfield and Garden. And
Nice.
It was incredible. And the whole community came out. We'll go a little quickly through these. We had a cake, and then so there's Alice Broquist, who was one of the first, who was the first president of the Island Association, Julie on the left, and then Vinnie Rossi, who way back in the 70s, that island was filled with tires and trash, and he organized some boys clubs and through the church boys groups, and they laid all of these Belgian blocks that are all surrounding, and they pulled all the trash out. It was like in that homesteaders time of Hoboken in the 70s, and people were just trying to clean it all up. So Vinny was part of the thing. And I got to tell you, getting ready for this talk and going through all the pictures, there were a lot of sad moments.
Sure.
Because so many of our neighbors, have passed away. So that's Paul Lanza in the middle. Paulie was the king of 11th Street.
Okay.
He used to work for Hoboken's water company, and he knew every basement in town.
Right.
He knew where every pipe was laid. I'm not sure if he ever wanted to talk about where any other things were buried in town. But, even it was really funny. So he just passed away a couple of years ago, 94. And there was a house that had a water main issue, and the water company guys are like taking their meters and they're trying to find the lines, through the asphalt. And he goes, "It's not there. Don't dig there. It's over here." I'm like, "Yeah, all right, old man." He's like, and somebody said, "That's Paul Alonso. He was the original water company. He knows where." So of course they dug in the wrong place, and then had to dig again. I miss Paul. He was such a great guy. So many stories.
What is going on here?
Yeah. So So directly across the street from our house was Annette's Beauty Parlor when we first moved to town. So that's Annette in the red hair.
Okay.
And you know, those shows,
I'm interested more in the foreground.
those shows where you see the beauty parlor and all the ladies that
Sure,
are always
sure.
there all day long just getting their hair done. So those are some of the ladies
Okay.
that were always there getting their hair done. You know, so of course this is a party in the middle of the day, so they just came out with
It
their
came
curlers.
out right in the middle.
And it was great
It's an
because
honor to get a piece of cake.
Annette was the one who always organized for everybody in the neighborhood who liked to go to Atlantic City. Every
Right,
Sunday morning,
right.
one of those buses would pull up in front of the beauty salon in Sassos. And 50 people would load up, and then you would hear the bus come back, you know, at like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night, Sunday night. Yeah, and that's gone now.
You've never 100% given up the performing aspect that was originally your passion.
I never gave up performing at all. I switched from classical piano. I had my own whiplash moment with a teacher. That's a crazy movie. When I watched it, it was like, oh yeah. But so I just started playing, you know, jazz and things like that. So this is a picture, obviously, on the waterfront with the Gordys. The Gordys is a really interesting story. A very good friend of ours.
We love interesting stories here.
Named Gordy,
A good place to start.
a synagogue member.
Okay.
Had cancer, and he had 2 young boys, you know, and we really thought we were losing him, and then he came out, and he had full remission.
Yeah.
So Dave Lampert in the middle, and Howard Oler-Reichen, and
Sure.
Pam Strell, they used to, and Adam Layden, they used to have like a kitchen jam that they would do,
Okay.
and they would just hang out during the day and do this kitchen jam. And when Gordy came, you know, was in remission, we decided to have a party at I think it was the Liquid Lounge or the Gold Hawk at the time. And we said, well, let's put the band together. Let's put something together to celebrate Gordy.
Right.
Hence the name, the Gordys.
The Gordys.
Right. Y apostrophe S, not I-E.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
so you know, we did 10 years with the grace of Jerry Fallow, who gave us a slot, summer series at the park. And then at different times, so, you know, different year, I'm wearing something different, that's how I can tell. And also, you know, it would change, complement of the band. One year, for a couple of years when my son was in high school, that's him on drums.
Okay.
He was the drummer for the Gordys, you know, along with Tom Castellano. And, you know, we would have different configurations.
It's like the Gordys big band.
It was pretty big at times. Yeah. You know why this shot is interesting? Is not because of my silly face, but you see the Empire State Building the way it is?
Sure.
Can you go back 2 pictures, Rand? So the big red square building behind
Right.
Pamela, that was the original post office in the city of New York.
Okay.
And just 2 blocks behind it was my apartment
Okay.
on Sheridan Square.
Right.
Okay, now you can go back to the silly picture of me playing. In my apartment, there was one window. It was a Flatiron building, which was the studio in there, and the Empire State Building was just framed in that window. So like village to West Village, West
Yeah.
Village to West Village, and you know, so we didn't move very far.
And now you have it captured
Yeah.
on YouTube forever.
And then, you know, speaking, I don't know, I think we were at Gold Hawk time, but sometimes the band would configure different ways, and this gig was called, we were sometimes 5
Okay.
for this gig, and there were some of us, and, you know, a whole bunch of people were playing that night. It was really great to hang out. That's actually a student of mine from Stevens, just sort of hanging out too. Stephen.
Now, I think, are we getting into the Stevens
Yeah.
batch? All right, can we go to the 2-shot for just a second? Because you already had an awful lot on your plate.
Yeah. I tend to multitask.
But, so how did you get involved with the very esteemed Stevens Institute of Technology?
So from like 89 to 95, I barely knew it existed. Right? Like a lot of Hoboken residents. You know, we
Right.
have all of our lives, you know, I came from, it was a city transplant and all this. And then I saw this in the Hoboken Reporter, this posting, you know, Stevens Institute of Technology, Music and Technology Concert. I'm like, oh, they do something with technology at Stevens.
Okay.
And I went to the concert in Devon, and there was these kids on stage playing with synthesizers. There was this guy running around, pulling his hair out, trying to make everything work. He was the founder of the program, David Musial.
All right.
And, we talked. He goes, "Oh, you have a recording studio?" At the time, Harari was still open. And he goes, "Yeah, I started this program, and I need a recording studio to start recording classes. Will you teach these kids?" I almost never graduated NYU. I really hated college. And I'm like, all right, well, you know what? We're sure maybe this is going to be income. Bring into the studio, a different royalty stream. We had the tap floor business, the rentals going out. I was on tour with Greg, who passed in 2003,
Right.
and then started with Savion in '97. So this was just like, yeah, all right, sure, why not? The kids would walk from Stevens to Weehawken between the bridges where the studio was for the classes.
Yeah.
And, that's how I started as an adjunct. By '07, I was part-time. 2008, I was full-time. And that's when we closed Harariville. That's like the recession happened.
Right,
Now
right,
everybody's
right.
working on laptops. The bread and butter business kind of went away in the studio industry. And, Julie and I decided, maybe we should pivot and, try something else. So I ended up, hi, Rena. Good. I want to make sure we talk about Rena's organization, Music for All Seasons.
Rena Fruchter.
Yeah.
What a great. Wait, I like to read the comments too, Rand. What a great interview. Wonderful stories. Loving the photos. Also, we got plenty more photos for. Well, not as many
Not
as
too
we
many.
had before,
Not
but
too
we
many. Yeah,
still
yeah.
have some good ones.
Anyway, so what ended up happening was, as industry professor, not academic,
Okay.
right, which is a delineation in academia. And Stevens has a lot of industry professors in all the different departments, which I think is brilliant because, we bring a different sensibility.
Sure.
And by 2010, I ended up being the director of the Division of Technology and the Arts, which at the time was both visual arts and technology and music and technology. They were tiny programs. There were like, 10 kids in each, give or take. But we started growing something. And now music and tech has like 110 majors and like 35 minors, 40 minors, and visual arts is getting close to that number. And I was only director for a year and a half then, and then let somebody else do it for a long time, but I've been director since before COVID at this point.
Okay.
And, just
Why don't
we
we
wanted
look
to
at some
build.
of these photos and
But the key thing about Stevens was
Yeah.
not only did I close the studio, I never stopped touring. I want to say that. And I always kept the studio open in my house.
Right.
Because I closed the big studio, but I opened up a mixed mastering room. The thing about Stevens is that, not only is it the very first mechanical engineering school in the country, 1870 is when it was founded. And I know that the museum has a lot of history on Stevens, as well as Stevens
Sure.
themselves. We have some great historians up there. But it encourages interdisciplinary communication between departments and schools. And so if you're open, listen, when you're an entrepreneur, you have to do marketing and promotion. You got to build your Rolodex. Some people don't even know what that means right now, but your networking is the key to keeping a business running. And I just brought that. I mean, that was just how I had been living since '87. Right. So I just took that and I started meeting different faculty on campus, and so you can go to the next slide now. I met a brilliant acoustician, Harari G. Prasad, MG Prasad, who did musical acoustics. He was a leader in his Hindi community, and he did all sorts of studies with conch shell. And being the Baltikiya with shofar, we started doing little research projects between what's a conch shell,
Nice.
and the meaning of those instruments in both of our religions was very similar in terms of connecting the group of people, to the heavens, or communication. Shofar was the battle cry when, back in the day. And so MG, another brilliant doctor in biomedical engineering, Vicky, Hazelwood, essentially connected me with next slide, Dr. Sanjeev Kaul. And Dr. Kaul was the chief of surgery in the trauma unit. And he wanted to do a sound acoustic study for Hackensack University Medical Center. That's the name at the time.
Yeah.
And so we partnered with Harman, Cardin Harman, a big, huge company now, who provided us all sorts of gear. And we mined about 27 microphones in nurses' stations, patient rooms, ICU.
Yeah.
We had this whole protocol that, because we were recording, but we would scramble the recording immediately to wipe out any speech intelligibility, so there was no legal issues there.
Andrew J. Nimmer says,
yeah.
super cool.
Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Andrew in a minute. Hi, Andrew. I'm glad you're here. So we started this study, and this led to my very first academic paper that was presented at a conference in noise control conference
And so
in
is this
Florida.
just ambient sound in a medical environment, or what are we looking at?
Dr. Kaul was really, sound in hospitals is a big issue. Anybody who's ever been in one knows. It's like all the beep tones. Nurses' stations have all that stuff. So they had fatigue. They couldn't retain nurses. Slamming doors. Patient rooms are open all night. Some patients have their TVs.
Hard to sleep.
And so Dr. Kaul was really interested in creating the study. And by the way, there was like 40 people under him on his side, me on my side with my advisors as go Rob. I'm like, am I doing anything wrong? And Harmon's team. And we were looking to see if there was any correlation between like this acoustic profiles, hostile acoustic profiles, and like cognitive impairment. So go ahead.
And Valerie D'Antonio says, great talk, and she's learning so many new terms like acoustician.
Another master gardener, by the way.
Fantastic.
Yeah, so this was one student study, and then that led to the next study, and there's Andrew J. Nimmer.
Hey, there he is.
And because of MG's connections with an organization in Bengaluru, India, we did this crazy thing where Mridangam, which is that Indian instrument, it's got two heads, and tap dancing.
Yeah.
We did a study to see if these two cultural musicians could take like Buster Brown's tap steps and marry that or match that on the drum, and vice versa, some traditional Carnatic percussion patterns, and match that. We did this entire study, and then you can go to the next slide.
And that
I'm sorry, you should go back to that.
I just want so that's slightly more, a little fancier than the foam wall.
The foam wall, yes. We'll drop that part, okay?
Okay.
So this is actually Stephen's anechoic chamber. So anechoic means a room without reflection. So those panels actually suck up all the sound.
Yeah.
So if you speak, it's completely directional in the way your voice is pointed. So like if you turn your head and speak sideways, that person doesn't hear you anymore.
And Andrew J. Nimmer says, this was such a special exploration for me. Thank you, Rob, for facilitating the connection.
Yeah. And MG was actually the one, thanks Andrew, I love you, man, was the one that from IBM originally got the anechoic chamber and a reverb chamber delivered to Stevens. They're actually renovating it now. There's going to be a whole new anechoic chamber in Stevens soon, hopefully opening up. So we did this, and then on the next slide, so from Hoboken, Stevens to India. So I went to Bangalore and presented the research. And it's hard to see on the projector slide, but that's in our studio, Kitty 350, in the third floor of the Kitty building on Stevens campus. Great. Where and that's MG sitting at the table with me, where we actually did multiple kinds of recordings in a ambient environment that would be more normal, where you would hear these instruments versus the anechoic chamber. And so we did a lot of frequency analysis, to see how they would be different.
And how would that oscillating fan affect the acoustic? No. Okay, next
There'd
next
be some
slide.
modulation.
All right,
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So my years of touring and being on the stage and being artistic director. So you see me there in the left corner of the screen. So Marcus Weldon, who was the CEO of the not that me, the me above me over here, the president of Nokia Bell Labs at the time. They were honoring Claude Shannon. So Shannon was the guy around the same time as Alan Turing and Nyquist, who actually invented binary code, the ones and zeros. He had this maze
Yeah.
that he had an automated mouse, and the mouse would bump into the wall and turn. So like it would bump into the wall, that would be a negative, and he would turn and have a path that would be a positive. So the 0 and 1s. And he was able to prove that you can create a language based off of these 1s and 0s, which became binary code.
That's amazing.
So for his centennial, Nokia Bell Labs put this incredible conference, like Nobel laureates. All these people came to this campus, and I'm not even going to start naming them because I'll forget them all. But Bell Labs.
This isn't as part of your Stevens. This you've been hired as a consultant.
No. So this is Stevens research.
This is Stevens research.
This
it's
is why
all
it's
tied
here.
together. All
Yeah.
right.
So this is again Hoboken Stevens, branching out. So Stevens had this relationship with Bell Labs before. Bell Labs had this thing called Experiments in Art and Technology, the E program, and the last person to do it before me was Merce Cunningham, right? And they had done this thing. So Marcus Weldon, we made this collaboration. It was a joint venture between Stevens, Bell Labs. Nokia Bell Labs financed most of it. I brought faculty members together, and Andrew Nimmer, Ayşegül Durakoglu, who is this amazing Turkish pianist, concert pianist. And again, I should have prepared all my list of names, but what we ended up doing.
Tag them later.
We'll tag them later. I'm so sorry. Christian Manganelli, who's actually a Hoboken resident, who's a big shot show producer for Live Nation and such. And I called in some of my contacts over at World Stage, who provided all the technology. And we put together an hour show where the Bell Labs engineers, Paul Wilford was the director of research in arts, and he was my main collaborator there. They actually designed wrist accelerometers and anklet bracelet accelerometers. What you're seeing on the screen there is we have a camera positioned directly over the piano, and we're doing video analytics of the hand movement. And then we have different sonic outputs so what's happening on this stage is the musicians are playing, and the video analytics are seeing their hands, and the dancers are dancing. Andrew Nimmer is dancing, and we're feeling the impact of his feet and the sound through the PA system. And it all seems like just a big show. Oh, and then there's projection mapping. That's generative graphics on the walls. And if you see all these computer screens, here I am pointing to the stuff again, all those computer screens, you'll notice that I wanted the pit to be everybody, all the technology was exposed. And then there's 500 people sitting in this tent, this white tent, where Bell Labs actually put their own Wi-Fi system in, an enclosed Wi-Fi system. They designed an app that everybody had to download walking in. And so this is like predates a lot of the cell phone interaction in the stadiums that are happening. Everybody has this app. And through the course of the concert, like Ayşegül is playing Pour le Piano, Debussy piece. And at one point there's a run that goes all the way from the bottom of the piano to the top. It's hard to see over the piano, but I've mic'd the piano with 3 stereo pairs. And the video analytics, the accelerometers, the motions, even on my arm as I'm emceeing and moving my arm around, are controlling all the consoles. So the audio consoles being controlled by the motion on stage. The sound and lighting and the projection mapping are all being triggered by our motions on stage.
Right.
And so we wrote the script to talk about Shannon's life and all the different ways that he interacted with music and people, and he invented these things. But we did it through a live performance. It's like when Ayşegül would run up the piano, the console would open up the different stereo pairs from the first two mics by the hammer to the second two mics by the middle of the piano to the third mics at the end of the piano. And that would go down a 6.2 array of speakers, an immersive audio array of speakers. So by the time her run was going, the console, following her fingers, would open up these faders, and then those speakers were activated. So by the time her run was done, 500 people were sitting in the soundboard of the piano. Right? So, I mean, we just did a whole bunch of different things. If you go to the next slide, you'll see, this took a lot of technology and interface, and right to my left is Julian, another Stevens Institute for Visual Arts and Technology major.
And look, those two guys have matching shirts.
Well, their team.
All right.
So there's a lot of different things which ended up in this final performance with all these. So you can see the sides of the tent. That's all. I had six 30K projectors mapping the screens. That's Shannon's face. We're all on stage. We have Andrew dancing. Oh, here
Musicians, the technicians, and the audience all working together to,
And at one point, we actually get the audience to turn on their. And so when we're changing lights, it's changing the colors of the screen to be part of the lighting system. And at one point, the audience is dancing their phones around, and it's generating different harmonic structures in the piece of music. The two of the students that we brought on
we've come a long way from holding the lighter up.
Right, the lighter up. And the audience is now changing the harmonic content of the song being played.
Yikes!
Yeah, crazy stuff.
All right, let's keep going. We're
And so I was able then to be invited to the Audio Engineering Convention, AES Society in New York, and talk about this project. So bringing Stevens, Hoboken, back out into the world.
Fantastic.
Yeah. And then later years, partnered up with Focusrite, great company, who did an education panel. So again, representing Stevens in this education panel, kind of talking about my life and career to all these kids that come to AES to want to become industry professionals. And
what does that stand for? The AES?
Audio Engineering Society.
Great.
Yeah, they're one of the standards. Which leads us to just a couple weeks ago. Like I said, I've never stopped doing things. So I'm actually at Maryland Public Television. That's the Dion Parson and the 21st Century Band. I've been touring with Dion for about 10 years now.
Where is this, in Annapolis?
No, this is in Baltimore, just outside Baltimore. And this is actually a program that's going to air in June as part of public television's fundraising efforts. So Dion's introducing a new thing called Jazz Rivian. And just to give you, some ideas. So on the right there, that's Alioune Faye. He's a percussionist for Peter Gabriel. Some of your favorite Peter Gabriel records, he and his brothers are all there. The sax player, which is just in front of the bass player, Ron Blake. He's the sax player of Saturday Night Live Band. You can see him every Saturday night on the stage. Melvin in the center, Jones, he plays with Usher and a whole bunch of other guys. Victor Provost on steel pan. Victor is the best steel pan player in the world right now, just acknowledged. He can play bebop on that steel pan as fast as any of the Wildcats from the 60s. It's amazing. Carlton Holmes on piano and Ruben Rogers on bass, plays Christina McBride.
So you love going on the road, even as much as you have built such a wonderful community here in Hoboken. It excites you to get out there on a.
Yes, I mean performance. Whether you're on one side of the glass or the stage or the other, when it's people like this, the top of their craft that are touring the world, it's always great music.
Sure.
So if it's great music, it's great music. It doesn't matter if it's jazz or rock or pop or classical. It's just great to be around such talented, amazing people. The team.
Rand, that's now what?
So this
there has to be an explanation.
So this is a shameless plug.
Okay, that's what we're all about here at Hoboken Talks.
Marrying music and research, again through Stevens. I'm wearing...
Is this an Esther Williams biopic?
I'm wearing an EEG cap, a 32-note EEG cap, by the grace of Dilian Calhan at Stevens, who is the Vice Provost for Research and Development. I forget his exact title at the moment. But he was able to give our program funding to get this. I have ever since being on the road with Savion Glover,
Okay.
who always had to have the sound super loud. Super loud. His taps were like 110 dB
Right,
on the
right,
stage, which,
right.
was like super loud. And he was like the Bruce Springsteen, he is like the Bruce Springsteen of tap. He would do 3-hour concerts.
Yeah.
So I would see, hoofers would always be excited because Savion's skill is surpassed by none. So fast and detailed. But people who were just going to see him who weren't tap dancers, this ball peen hammer banging, banging, banger for 3 hours, I would see them kind of go, like into a coma. Like they would they couldn't take the sound pressure. So it actually instilled this interest in me in psychoacoustics. And so, with this EEG cap, I'm now venturing into the next layer of research, which I've always been wanting to do. And as a sort of observational research study to get started with the tool set and understand it.
Now wait, Miss D'Antonio has to write down psychoacoustics.
What we decided to do, with my collaborator here, team, Dr. George McConnell, he's a neural engineer. We are going through the process of trying to identify areas in the mind that are being used by musicians at different stages in learning a piece, practicing a piece, performing a piece in front of an audience, and through the whole cognitive process of, all right, is it this part of the brain, is it this part of the brain, right? So for months now, I've been wearing this thing and playing on like electric pianos. This is one of the studios I designed at Stevens.
I'm not going to mention those tiles.
Yeah, you notice they're not foam. and we've been taking a lot of data, and a week from right now, Thursday night, 7 p.m., March 2nd, we are giving
a week from tonight, if you're watching this live.
Stevens is going to have the Music and Technology's inaugural faculty concert, where all the different faculty, we all do crazy things.
Carlos Alomar.
Carlos Alomar is going to perform as well.
Carlos Alomar for David Bowie's band.
Yeah. So Carlos is doing a crazy thing. Ashigul is going to be playing some beautiful, beautiful piano.
You'll be wearing...
And so you could go to the next slide. So, I want to see what's going to happen. So I'm going to project my brainwaves on the screen.
That's awesome.
While I'm performing, because that's the next layer. Is like what happens when you're performing in front of a live audience.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden, what part of the brain is like, is my stage fright from 5th grade going to show up?
Right.
Because I've never done this before. Right, so this is going to be part of.
You should bring the trumpet out just for.
That might show up. You never know. There's a jam at the end. Yeah.
Ellen Fry says, "Very enjoyable. Thanks for doing Hoboken Talks, and looking forward to the."
Dion Parson and the 21st Century Band PBS special.
Okay.
Yeah, Ellen. Thanks for the shout out. And this is going to kind of wrap up the slides, I think. So I do want to mention one thing before you wrap me up. We had a hello from Rena Fruchter.
Sure, I remember that.
So Rena and her husband Brian Dallow started this organization called Music for All Seasons.
Yes.
And I got pulled into it by some of your friends, Jennifer Lampert and Julio Fernandez, who are both facilitators for, they do this amazing stuff. One project is Voices of Valor, where they work with vets.
Okay.
Who may have been going through their own recuperative challenges.
Sure.
And they write songs together, and then the vets perform the songs, and there's recordings made. And Rena and Brian have also started another one called Voices of Empowerment. So I've been fortunate enough to go in and work with again, amazing facilitators. This is a big team, incarcerated youth, and and do the same sort of thing, in jails, prisons. My time was on Zoom because of situations.
Right.
So that organization I sit on the board with, and I'm really honored to work with these people because it's so beautiful. I'll mention that Dion and his wife, Nicole Parson, also run an organization called the United Jazz Foundation.
Okay.
They're based out of St. Thomas. And Dion, he's a drum master. He tours the world with all these amazing people. And with UJF, what they started to do was there's a lot of gang violence in the islands, and again with youth that are going down the wrong paths. So they started bringing some of the bass jazz players from New York down to St. Thomas to mentor these kids in these 2-week sessions and start teaching them musicians, musical instruments, which is why I joined that board also. And, they have been developing that, Dion and Nicole, for a couple decades now, where some of those kids got so great that they've come up and performed at Jazz at Lincoln Center as part of a collaboration between Jazz at Lincoln Center and United Jazz Foundation. And, like Ron Blake from the band, also from St. Thomas, they go down there. And so a lot of the musicians go back and forth helping these youth through music. And it's just like, these are the kind of organizations that, I love being part of. Because the team that put these things together, the integrity, their mission. It's like the synagogue. Some of our best friends in Hoboken, to this day, are people we met when we first moved in the 90s.
Right.
And our kids grew up together in the synagogue, and it's all a team. Just the way these different circles of families happen in Hoboken, and how it all grows. And then now I have the Stevens family too.
Eric Kammer says, very nice job showcasing your musical life and Hoboken. Eric, I could not have said it. Well, maybe, I don't know.
You're the
No, he said it pretty well.
He did say it pretty well.
But I learned, I've done a number of these, but some people I know more about, going in. This I've learned a lot in a short time, and then even tonight I've learned a lot more. And I love this thread of community through your life, and it's with the synagogue, the role that religion plays in people's lives, the role that music can be very similar, can certainly overlap a lot, and it seems like it's been all about community building, pushing things forward, and giving back, and I think it's beautiful, Rob.
Well, thanks, Jack. That's very kind of you to say. You do a lot of that yourself, even by running this program, being part of this program.
2-3 things I do. All right, so we've run just a little bit over time, and that's okay. But we thank Rob Harari for our guest this week, and they can go to Harariville.
That website's
Nope.
Don't
go there.
That's still a website from. I have to update.
All right,
that.
don't go there. But you can still
but you can see it right behind us. The old Harariville.
But also you can Google him and learn a lot more, and the grant from there's a lot going on that we didn't talk about. All right, coming up very soon on this exciting third season of Hoboken Talks, Shirley Dennis will be interviewed by LaTrenda Ross. And after that, if you've had questions about staircases, banisters, the ups, the downs, Marty Anderson will be interviewed, not by Steve Zahn, but Steve Zane. We thank the New Jersey Historical Commission. This series, they support it. I'm not going to get into the details, but let's just say they support it. Who else supports it? How about the New Jersey Council for the Humanities? The Shipyard Circle. I have missed looking at this list between seasons. These are, now look, you want to support the museum. If you come and put some money in a couple of bucks in the box, you're supporting the museum. You want to become a member, you're supporting the museum. Susan Chait supports the museum. We think that Andrew J. Nemmer is going to be supporting the museum. But the Shipyard Circle, they've gone a little deeper into their pockets, and we thank them. Michael Barry, Andy Carlson, Cynthia Cray, Peter Cascio, Leah and Greg Del Aquila, Beth Feinstein, Robert Foster, and Holly Metz. Bob, he runs the place, but he's like, you know what, they give me money, I'm giving some of it back. That's how it works. Barbara Gross, Barbara Gross is a dear friend of mine. Diana and Larry Enriquez, How about Susan Gamba and Valerie Huffnagel, who she's been looking at that 11th Street. She's like, let me at it. No, they're not letting her do it.
No,
but
they now have an island in 11th Street.
they're on it.
They're on it.
They're
That's
on
a
it.
lot.
Catherine Kingsbury. How about Annette and Anthony Lang, Nancy Lynch and Chris Faulkner, Niall Murray, Mark Perkel, Jim and Rose Perry, Ted Rollins and Jessica Rispoli, Pamela Shipley. I call her Pamela Shipyard. That's how about David Steele, Ellen Stewart. She's an archaeologist. She's booked music shows. She's on the board here. We love her. Bill Tobias, Vinnie Torrey, and Lynn Herring. How about two absolutely wonderful people, Kate Valenta and Alex Johnston, Anthony Vetrano, Michael Verost, and Peter Wiley, the ones with the, you can see who's the museum trustee, a little asterisk there. But again, all support is appreciated. Iron State, there are landlords here at the museum. You know what they charge? How about $1 a year? Come on, you're not going to find a better rent than that. The current downstairs exhibit, if you haven't been to the museum since this is opened, and especially if you're a newer resident, I urge you to come see this exhibit, The Fires, focusing on let's call it a suspicious large number of fires here from between like 78, 82, a little after that, gentrification comes with a cost, but this exhibit tells you, so, puts a human face on it, on the losses. And there's some events. I'm not going to read all of these, but you can go to the Hoboken Historical Museum website and see which, I'd say, take your phone and your laptop and on one, look at the date, and then have your calendar open on your phone, and you say, okay, I want to go March 5th. I can't do that one, but I can do this one. You know how to plan a schedule, so that's fine. But some great talks and visits. Upstairs, now this is exciting. If you're watching this live, if you're someone who at this time of day is able to sit home and watch something on YouTube, tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Don't tune in at 7, but it'll be live. Pierce Logan is a poet. I'm gonna have to watch this guy. I don't 100% get it, but I'm gonna watch. They've printed up these poems. They're hanging in the gallery. It's very cool looking, and you're gonna learn about the process. And I'm gonna tell my friend Vera to tune in. And then the exhibit opens this Sunday, 2 p.m., 2 to 5 p.m. I'm not saying come for the snacks, but sometimes there's some snacks, a little bottle of something. I'm not promising. We're all over the social media, not on Mastodon. Andrew J. Nemers' very cool interview, and he loves hearing what you're up to these days, Rob. So there you go. And you can probably, Andrew, you can look him up on Instagram and see him dancing in different.
Andrew's very active. He was a mentee of Gregory Hines.
It all comes together.
Yeah.
And Evan is a mentee of mine. Susan is very excited for that Marty Anderson interview. Anyway, we're all over the social media, so we appreciate your comments, your likes. The shares are good, and subscribing. It's all good. Facebook is always telling me interact. I'm like, I pressed like, and they want you to comment on everything. Hoboken Historical Museum thanks you for tuning in. On behalf of our director, Rand Hoppy, who's in charge of collections here, our guest, Rob Harari, audience member Evan for Stephen's student. I've been Jack Silbert. This is Hoboken Talks, and we'll see you next week.